What is up, traders, and welcome back to Uplift Markets. Today we'll be discussing Bitcoin and why we believe that now it is extremely bullish as it is approaching all-time highs, and also Coinbase, which has been recently added to the Nasdaq 100 and will be greatly benefited by the rise in the price of Bitcoin. So if you want to know the exact entry prices and the price targets, stick around for the video. So you guys may be asking, why now? Well, this is the perfect storm brewing for Bitcoin and Coinbase. As we know, we have recently been in an election year, and historically, it has been bullish for risk assets. As well, we've been seeing the liquidity cycle turning, with the Fed pause and interest rates not being, so in focus, and especially after the big bounce and recuperation that we've been seeing in the overall markets, the risk on environment is slowly starting to kick back in. There's also always been, an increase in demand here for Bitcoin due to the global distrust in the fiat systems, and especially now, right, with, there's a lot of indecision and volatility, that the recent administration has caused on, equities, and, investors are pulling into, Bitcoin a little bit more of an asset that, can't be directly impacted by tariffs, which obviously it isn't a product or service, just like, these companies are unfortunately being impacted by. And also, we could say that, the crypto winter is over. So the bulls are coming in full spring, right? And in a way, institutions, they need a regulated platform. And for this case, Coinbase is number one, and we firmly believe that the institutional flow is going to be increasing, and also the retail trade, which will show in their next earnings report, their financials, that increase in revenue for Coinbase. Additionally, there's a lot of fundamentals that support the upside. And to start off, we've been seeing that the Bitcoin supply on the exchanges is at a multi-year low, right? We've also seen something that's very interesting, is that Coinbase trading volume has risen at a very fast rate, right? And most recently, we can notice the trade volume here on the daily chart of Coinbase. As we can see, we have, if we zoom in, normal trading, right? And then we had this massive increase in, inflows, right? Basically volume in Coinbase stock. And especially this one right here happened, Friday, May 16th, so not too long ago. And it's just showing that the buyers are there. And it's very funny to see this around key areas of resistance, that we're breaking above it. Like there's support underneath, right? We're trying to break and, initiate a new trend, which, I will be covering later on for the thesis, right? As well, if we look at, the spot Bitcoin ETFs like IBIT, amazing. We reached the highs, and we're challenging the highs. We reached recently 63, but we're pulling back. And if you guys, watched my last video, approximately like 2 weeks ago, we stated that it was time to go long Bitcoin somewhere around here, or IBIT around 53. I'll link the video right here. And you guys can see that, this isn't any joke. This is serious, right? And there's momentum that, follows it, right? We always want to disregard the news and, what are the numbers saying? What is the overall market telling us? It's just the job, us as traders, to interpret that data that is being given to us, right? So, after seeing, these big inflows, we can, also say that, Coinbase is expanding globally, with licenses in, Germany, Singapore, and Japan, which is just giving overall more of a total bull addressable market for the stock, right? As well, the UAE has signed a recent, $500 million Nvidia chip deal to build the blockchain/AI infrastructure. And that recently happened when we had, President Trump traveling and just making deals for all these companies, right? Everything was, pretty bullish for these names. And also, Wistron is expected to build a U.S. chip plant by 2026, which will just benefit the crypto hardware ecosystem. So just really good news coming in for Bitcoin and the overall sector. Now, something very important here is the options pricing move. We've seen the put to call ratio dropping significantly. And this overall means that there's less fear and there's more bullish bets. Now, if we analyze this thoroughly, it shows, on the numbers that there's a higher call volume than put volume all the way towards August of this year, showing us that institutions have been buying, Bitcoin, and they've been going long ever since the beginning of the year, like I said previously. And I see, more bullish upside until even September, right? Firmly achieving, Bitcoin of 120,000, and IBIT just going higher, right? Following that. As well, the confidence has been building up, right, ahead of the breakout levels. We've seen the fear and greed index now achieving to greed. And, 2 weeks ago, it was not so bullish, right? There was fear still in investors, indecision. And now, we're seeing this, continued, I guess, or this shift in the sentiment of investors. And, to finish it off, we can say that historically, the numbers do back this up, that the low put to call ratios, precede major rallies, right? So the numbers don't lie, and it's always good to, take a step back when there's news and analyze, is this really going to impact the stock or the instrument that we're trading on a longer term, right? So it's very important to make those distinctions. And like I said, the charts don't lie. The bulls are in control, right? We have Bitcoin above the 50 EMA and the swing high anchored VWAP. I'll show the chart right now and get more into depth and just show the strong trend continuation, right? And coin also broke above the 50 and the 200 EMA with volume, and that's showing, like a golden cross, bullish reversal confirmed. And we will have the price targets of Bitcoin. We're currently trading at 108, 106. Firmly believe, to the upside of 130K to 165K. And for Coinbase, trading right now currently at around 260. Price targets, first price target will be towards 351 and 480. You might be saying, how are you getting these price targets and why are you so bullish on the name? Well, let's analyze the charts of these names. So first of all, I have IBIT, which is, pretty much the same as Bitcoin, but we can look at Bitcoin, the actual instrument here, and just see it off. Like, we are above the 50, right? I've been saying to be long Bitcoin ever since my last video, since we recuperated the 50 EMA. And also something to notice was that, okay, well, let's ignore the recent price action. Before that, we were, achieving highs, and then we had a double top, and we had this nice sell-off. So after noting that, all we had to do was plot a swing high anchored VWAP, which is this red line here, and just look when we would break above, showing that collectively we would like to get those sellers that initiated the short position, like this big move, like get them caught off guard. So what we did here was exactly that. All we had to do was wait. And this was the initial of the long side, right? The break of 92,000 was the entry for Bitcoin. And now, like we said, we are achieving all-time highs. And the next profit target is going to be based now off the Fibonacci retracements, right? So we know that it's a continuation of a trend, right? If we look at an overall longer-term trend, Bitcoin has been bullish, right? An uptrend. So what we do is, okay, we'll favor, right, the force going to the upside. And all we have to do now is just do this, right, from the high here, projected to the bounce that we had at the low. And see, that was the first price target. Next price target on Fibonacci retracements is that 130 of Bitcoin right here, which I firmly believe we can achieve if we do break concisely above the $110,000 level, right? So it's very important to look at this and, not just, look at the news, but also look at what the numbers are saying. And, for coin as well, it's the same thing, right? So we are above the 50 EMA, like I said, and, we are above, finally now above the swing high anchored VWAP, so from where the sellers came in. So this could be the initiation of a reversal towards the upside. Like I said, we're seeing, the exact same patterns here happening. Now the other one was Bitcoin, right? But for Coinbase, the volume that I previously mentioned here, like the big candle, came at this, like around these breaks, like this candle, the big candle here came at the break above that, and there's a reason for that. There were sellers there, and buyers had to, come in aggressively to close above that level. And now the average short participant is losing money. The average short that entered or shorted from these highs is now losing money. So it causes nervousness, and like I said, has to make them, cover their positions, which causes double buying. As there's people that are looking to be long the name as we're above the 50, and there's other indicators, right, that are confirming now that there's a shift in the trend as well. Also, you can also see the shift in the trend simply, even if you don't use any indicators, simply following trend structure. And what I mean by this is, okay, what is a downtrend characterized by? We have lower highs, right? Lower highs and lower lows, right? So we can say this was the first lower high, second lower high, and third lower high, right? So when we got above the recent lower high and we got above here, the trend is invalidated to the downside. Now it shows that there's been a shift and we are looking to go long, right? Now the price targets, like I said, for Coinbase are going to be based on the Fibonacci retracements. We're simply projecting the upside, and the first price target is going to be there at around the highs of 351, and the next one, before we get overextended, about 1.618 of the move, basically 100% of the move here based on Fibonacci retracements, is at approximately 477 or 480, that level, and that can firmly be achieved if the sustainability basically and overall volume continues and we break above these highs of 350 for Coinbase, right? So you guys also may be asking, what is the longer term price target that you have for Bitcoin? Well, if we look at this from a fundamental standpoint, we know that Coinbase is kind of like offering the picks and shovels of the Bitcoin revolution, right? We still haven't gotten any type of fiscal or any type of deregulation yet, but with the new administration, there's been hopes. So if we're this bullish and we get that deregulation and more incorporation of Bitcoin within the society as a whole, we will see Bitcoin extremely just going up, right? Because there's no restrictions as much, and the regulatory, like I said, clarity favors the public platforms and institutions. They trust Coinbase, right? And as like I said, the Bitcoin adoption goes global. There's been sovereign funds been adopting Bitcoin within their portfolio. Showing that this is not just a meme coin or anything like that. There's been individuals that they're picking up the instrument, as well as public companies like GameStop, looking to acquire Bitcoin and holding on their balance sheet, right? So Coinbase as well is just becoming like that default infrastructure layer for the crypto finance. And as well, the recent news can be included as Coinbase being selected as a custodian for the Ethereum ETFs, which is very bullish, and I'll get into more of that on my next video on Ethereum. And also the Bitcoin network has reached a record high hash rate, and the security now is stronger than ever. So if you're doubting whether your coins are safe, just be in mind that it is completely safe now. So there shouldn't be any reason to worry. Now, the conviction and the strategy overall, to sum it up, is that I am long both Coinbase and bullish on both of these instruments, coin and Bitcoin. Extremely bullish on these names, and the technicals and the fundamentals are aligning across the multiple time frames, right? So we have bullish trends on the daily, monthly, 30 minutes. So it's very important that now the technicals are matching the fundamentals, right? So sum it up, max targets for Bitcoin are going to be above the 100K, towards 120,000, and for coin it's going to be 450. So if you guys like this video, make sure to please subscribe, give it a like, a thumbs up, And as always, feel free to subscribe to the Uplift Markets newsletter at the link right here, where we give daily inflows and daily analysis on these important trends and major stock moves. So as always, make sure to be careful, manage your risk, and don't let the market whip you guys out. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.